Now with Greater LA on KCRW, I'm Steve Chiatakis. Earlier this week, a long-awaited decision, a beautiful moment of reality television.
Rachel, will you accept this rose?
I found the love of my life. All the ups and downs, even yesterday.
Sorry.
It was worth it.
The Bachelor, Matt James, chooses his mate, Rachel, but then he had to backpedal after some reality developments. In fact, this entire season, the 25th, has forced the Bachelor franchise to finally confront race and the nuances of happily ever after. Ri-Karlo Handy is a film editor. He owns Sunwise Media, and he's here with us now to talk about it. Ri-Karlo, welcome back to you.
Hey, nice to be back. How are you?
I'm all right. We kind of knew what was coming before the ender this week. Some pretty recent pictures of Rachel emerged where she's at this antebellum party taking pictures, something out of the Civil War era. So that was jarring. Then the Bachelor host Chris Harrison defended the picture saying, 2018 isn't really 2021, which, well, a lot of folks just hammered there. And he had to take some time away from the program as well. My goodness. Were you surprised by what happened on The Bachelor?
No, I mean, I think that, it's really just at the forefront of our consciousness and conversations. And so folks are these things are bubbling up to the surface.
In the After the Rose special on Monday that aired right after the finale, Matt confronted Rachel. They were on the sofa together and he put the kibosh on everything. Let's listen.
It's just disappointing. I had to take a step back for you to put in that work that you outlined that you needed to do. And that's something you got to do on your own. And that's why we can't be in a relationship.
Can't be in a relationship. But then Matt also talked about how he had to work to avoid falling into common tropes about being black, about being a black man. Do you think, Ri-Karlo, that reality TV, particularly a show that's based on the cliche of romance, here's a rose for you, could be less stereotypical?
You hit on something very important about reality television versus scripted television. And I think that a lot of scripted television is either sometimes based on our preconceived notions or stories we've heard, right? Or our version of stories based on, some sort of fantasy, and in reality, love and real life is way more complicated and nuanced than that. And it's just sometimes hard. It's the harder path as storytellers in reality television to actually tell a story that has these multifaceted nuances that real life has, right? Like we tend to want to put everything in these very neat boxes, and just life is not like that. And so I think that for him and for many black men that are either put on TV or put in these positions, you've seen yourself portrayed on TV, or you've seen black people portrayed on TV specifically in different ways. And you want to make sure you don't come off inside of those tropes because, real life doesn't really reflect what people have been seeing on TV for years.
Right. Yeah. The scripted television, what those boxes, those neat little boxes that you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a tough thing for anyone deciding to come on television at any point in a reality television situation, because at the end of the day, there needs to be some drama. There needs to be a great story there. And not everyone's going to be as open with every facet of their lives and just let the producers mold whatever happens, right? You want to have some semblance of a control of how you appear on television. And then there's that extra added layer of the pressure of like, oh, I'm here representing for a whole group of people, right? And so now you're concerned about how am I representing for black folks, right? And there's a lot of different groups that have that same pressure, right? How am I representing for the LGBTQ community, or how am I representing for women or Asian people, right? Like, these are the things that go through your mind when you are put in these positions in the American pop culture landscape, because, there's a lot of, different, stereotypes, right, about all these different groups that are considered other.
Well, I wonder how much the lens of LA and Hollywood has to do with this. The fact that, it is very I dare call it insular, that there's just a lot of rehashing and people who have been around for a long, long time, not really, as you say, seeing what's out there in America.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the downside of nepotism, right? The upside is that you've maybe built a community of people that you know and trust, right? But if that community isn't diverse, if that community isn't really reaching the entire swath of people that are available, then you don't really know if you have the best people, right? And like, I use the example of the NBA. The NBA was always this place where, we started off at this place where, we weren't allowed, like black folks weren't allowed to play, right? And you look at the NBA today and it's very competitive to get in. And essentially the best players get in because they've worked at it for their entire lives. And so I think that it's a good example of, when you start to make things a little bit more equitable as far as opportunity, you start to see these areas in our lives, and not just the NBA. There's a lot of areas, a lot of jobs. Like I think nursing is another good example. Like where it's like you just get the best people, and you give everyone equal opportunity to get in, and then the people that work the hardest at it get those opportunities. Versus the nepotism where you are, just bringing in your friends and family, and the difference in the product is way better, right? Like that's what makes those industries really profitable, because people watch them because they know that these are the best people in the world at this thing.
Do you think that what happened in this season with on The Bachelor, Matt James, and even with Chris Harrison, the host, I mean, do you think it's going to change the franchise? Maybe even make it better? Ooh, that was quite a sigh.
Well,
Wow.
It's like, you don't know, right? It's the unknown of like what, you always never know how long people will fight against the world changing around them, right? Because, we've all had those experiences where people just want things to be the same, yet the world around us is changing and there's a resistance, right? And so my only concern about all that, it's a very loaded question, right? Because like, how long will the people in power, the people that are conservative about change, fight against the change that's coming and that's happening, right? And how long will they resist it? And that's that resistance, that friction is what we have to work through. But at the same time, who knows how long it will take.
Ri-Karlo Handy, editor, producer, production executive, has the Handy Foundation, owner of Sunwise Media. Ri-Karlo, thanks for coming on again. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.